Hello and welcome to another episode of the Frankly Leader podcast. And I am excited, really excited, because Louise has come back to talk to me a second time, which is really, really great. So Louise, welcome and thank you for giving up your time to come and talk to me again.
Oh, it's great. It's good to be back.
And for people listening, this is one of our bonus episodes. So with each series, we ask a number of experts to come on and talk to us about one thing that they think leaders need to have in their toolkit, that they are an expert or at least passionate about. And I'm really excited to get into this today, a topic that I care deeply about, but you'll have to wait for the reveal. For people out there that don't know Louise, let me introduce you properly and formally. And I'm going to read this so that I get it right. So Louise Turner has been telling stories since she was a little girl. From living room shows to Amdram productions, she grew up immersed in tales and now she tells them on behalf of clients. Whether it's through blogs, web content or award entries for clients, Louise and the Wordsmiths team tell stories to help companies connect with people. In a world where knowledge is now no longer power because it's available at everyone's fingertips, Louise firmly believes that curiosity is now power. It's found in the questions you ask, not necessarily the answers you get. And Louise, I feel like in your introduction, you've given us a little hint of the topic you are bringing to talk about, which is
Storytelling.
Storytelling. And how leaders really need to know how to be good storytellers. So tell us a little bit about what it is that you do now and what you love about it and why storytelling should matter.
So I'm a writer and I'm a storyteller, and I do that both for my business and also for clients. So our clients range from tiny micro businesses all the way up to massive international corporations and groups. I spend a lot of my days writing. But there's also a fair amount of project management and team management. I'm responsible for business development. We are a micro business, so I have many, many hats. And business development is usually eating cake and drinking coffee and spending social time with people. But, that develops relationships and all of that's good. What I love most about what I do is wielding the right words to get the right outcome. So as a communications professional, my background's in PR, and you get taught from right at the start to be asking the question about who are we trying to talk to and what are we trying to say. And so unpacking any client brief with those questions gets us to an understanding so that we can then construct the right answers. But also figuring out what the story is that's going to resonate, because what we now know about the brain is that we make decisions emotionally and then we rationalize them afterwards. And back at the beginning of my career, we didn't have the neuroscience to prove that, but instinctively, and I'm talking my first job was the year 2000, my graduate job, instinctively we knew that stories were the key, the cheat code, I guess, for giving people information in a way that they would hold on to or connect with. So the storytelling aspect of my job is the thing that I love most. Curiosity is a huge part of what we do. I always say to clients, I'm not going to apologize for being that toddler type person that just says why are we doing that, because we have to unpack that, and what's on the other side of those questions could be the perfect piece of information that will unlock the story that we need to tell. And as you said in the introduction, we used to say knowledge is power. AI and the internet have basically given people access to knowledge in a way that you and I didn't have when we were growing up. You had the Encyclopedia Britannica and you went to the library and that was how you got your knowledge. These days, I think it's not about the answers, it's about the questions.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think for leaders in particularly, that whole piece about you need to be able to take your people on a journey with you. And that for me is about great storytelling. Like you can't be the captain of a ship and expect people to work to come together, to work together, to take that ship somewhere if you're not able to tell them a story, to inspire them and engage them and motivate them to move together and move in the right direction. So I think this is a really important topic. So what do you see as the biggest challenge of our future that leaders are currently facing for that they need the skill of storytelling to be able to navigate?
I think the uncertainty that we're facing, and the uncertainty in both the small things and the big things. The world in its biggest sense is volatile and uncertain, and there's so much that we're not in control of. So we need to be comfortable with that uncertainty, but we also need to be resilient, and we need to constantly adjust course. And I guess if the story that you're telling is an authentic story, then you can help people adjust course. You know, taking the captain of a ship analogy, 1 degree one way or 1 degree another way lands you in an entirely different location, doesn't it? So as long as the story is authentic, and people have bought into the story, that uncertainty that goes around it almost doesn't matter what the wind's doing, or is it raining, or, you know, did we see dolphins yesterday, or were there sharks? Those kinds of uncertainties don't matter if we're all happy with the story that we're subscribing to.
Yeah. And why do you think storytelling should matter to leaders today? So if there's a leader out there like on the fence, like, oh, I'm not going to tell, I'm not story time, this isn't story corner. How could you get them on board with, you know, why should it matter to them? What does it help with?
Mentally, I feel like stories are the way that you get people to buy into what you want them to do. And I think we're out of the command and control phase of leadership. We don't just get to have these really strong hierarchies where you do as you're told because somebody above you says so. There's notable exceptions, I guess, in the forces and the police, but these days organisations don't necessarily want you to lead that way. And on that basis, you've got to get people to subscribe to what you want them to do. So if you understand the story and the background and what's going on underneath, then people emotionally connect to that, and then they want to work for that. It's part of creating that shared purpose and the stuff that, you know, people want to work harder, give their best, contribute to. It's also how we remember stuff. The brain doesn't remember data. We drew on the walls of caves and sat around and told stories to pass on oral history around fires because that was what we remember. They won't remember the numbers that you give them, but they will remember the story that you tell them.
Yeah, and I love that point you just made there about stories kind of cut through all the fog, you know, that connection. You said the word connection, and I was like, yes, like they can really speed up the connection that you can make with an individual or a group of individuals more so than giving people data that they've then got to process too much to figure out, oh, what does this all mean then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a story they can relate to because, you know, we were all kids, we were all teenagers, we've all got lives outside of work. So the more that I can find a way to feel like we've got something in common, the more I'm going to want to subscribe to what we're doing and get on board with that.
Yeah. And what do you think leaders are tolerating in the workplace that if they, you know, that could be giving them some headaches, that if they just adapted more storytelling in their leadership role would eradicate?
The engagement that you see in organizations. You're always going to have some people that are enthusiastic and leaning forward into things and, oh yes, there's a new thing, a new initiative, I can do that, I can get on board with that. But there's always going to be people that are more cynical, harder to convince, and everything is less boring if you can get your message across in a story.
Yeah. And so someone out there listening goes, all right, you've convinced me, Louise. I'm going to embrace more storytelling. What would be your kind of like top tip for them or top tips? How do they get started in it, doing more of it?
Well, I've made reference to it already, but it's about personal stories. What can you bring to the table, which is from your own personal experience that you can describe authentically for people to go, yeah, actually, I see a bit of that. I recognise that. I was in that situation. It makes you live as a whole person, not just as that leader or that boss or that person in an organisation. And, you know, we're all multidimensional people these days. We want people to be authentically themselves at work. We're not, you know, a leader at work and then somebody else at home. So humans want to connect to humans, right? Yeah. And so telling a personal story about something you did at the weekend or something that happened in your past or whatever that looks like just brings that alive and helps strengthen that connection.
And I think that's where your work and my work definitely overlap in our Venn diagrams, because we talk about in the leader development space, a whole person, whole system. And we talk about, you know, you're not just a role, you're not just a job title, you're not just a role, you're not just the job that you come to do. You're a human being. And actually, as a leader, people want to connect with you on a heart-to-heart level, a human-to-human level. Yeah. So when you bring a little bit more of those human stories of your own experience, your life, it kind of like takes a lot of the walls down, doesn't it? It can break the walls down.
And I think it matters even more now. We're seeing the kind of younger generation, the people in their early part of their careers, perhaps up to being about 30, they're looking more for purpose than pay these days. And so buying into an organisational purpose is one thing, but then once you're in that organisation, buying into that purpose via the people that you work with and for just really deepens and strengthens that connection. So I think if we tie it back to purpose, because if we're all pulling in the same direction, that's a better functioning organisation, a more successful organisation. Then telling those stories and helping people really make those deeper connections is going to be part of the way to do that and get that purpose really harnessed so that everyone's doing their very best.
Yeah. I'm going to put you on the spot now and ask you a question that I didn't prepare you for.
Okay.
You'll be fine. What's your favourite story ever? Do you have one?
Ooh. So I could give so many different answers to this. I like a few different things. So if I was to take the Gruffalo as an example, which was a story that I read to my kids, over and over and over and over, is one of the books that we've kept, actually. We've not kept all the kids' books, but we have kept it. And think about the way that the story of the Gruffalo is he's a monster in the forest, and every time somebody sees him, he gets more different spikes on his back and different things, and he gets built up to be this kind of really, really dangerous thing because people don't know him. And they just keep catching glimpses of him, and different people see things, and then it builds the story, and it builds the story into this kind of super duper monster, which actually turns out to be the total opposite of who the Gruffalo is. And so I like a story that has a meaning underneath it somehow, and a way of learning that's not like smacking you over the head with it, but also Julia Donaldson and Axel Scheffler's joyful combination of the lyricism and the rhyming and the way that locks into your memory, as well as the beautiful pictures. I love stuff like that. If I was to be a bit more grown up, I don't know, I love a Christmas film. I really like Elf. I love a transformation story. If we were to talk about plot theory, I love a bit of Elf and the joyful child that he is going into a world that's not ready for him, and then the world kind of meets him a little bit on his own terms because he finds his people. Those kinds of stories are always nice.
You just inspired me. One of mine, I think I've never thought this before, but is Shrek. Because he's like the anti-hero that just wants a simple life in the forest.
Yeah. Can everyone just go away and leave me? There's stay out ogre signs for a reason. And but Donkey.
Then let me help you out if it gives me an easy life.
Yeah, but Donkey's just the antithesis of that and refuses to accept that that's how it needs to be. Come on, be a bit more Donkey.
Be more Donkey. And I think like what I'm loving here is like we feel like we're picking up like little ingredients that you can sew into your storytelling, whether it's humor, whether it's a flip, whether there's a transformation, because there's like the capacity to use storytelling is endless, isn't it? And you're right, it's been mentioned already, it's been around since caveman times. People have studied stories and storytelling. So it's a really immersive area that actually is quite fun. I think when you start playing with it, it's quite fun.
Lots of fun.
Yeah. Well, Louise, thank you for bringing your hot topic today. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I feel like we should come back and do episodes 3, 4 and 5 in terms of like deep diving into the art of storytelling. So maybe we'll do that in a future series. But all that's left to say is just thank you. Really appreciate you giving up your time and your wisdom for us today.
I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Jen. It's been great.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.